So for this video, we are going to talk about just weekly rhythms. And I think we all live in that weekly rhythm of Sunday and Mondays, and how they're always coming so quickly. It feels like as soon as you finish one, the next Sunday is here. And so we're going to just take a little bit of time and sit and talk about those rhythms and what that looks like throughout the week, and the importance of Mondays for the worship pastor, and the importance of the relationship with the worship pastor and the lead pastor, what that dynamic looks like, and what Monday should look like in planning purposes, and the things that we are both looking back to and reviewing from Sundays, and also looking forward to in the week ahead, what needs to be prepared, what needs to be planned. And so I think I want to just take a moment and start with that relationship aspect of the worship leader and the worship pastor and the lead pastor, and what that looks like, and why is it important? What's the importance of that relationship? And I think also it's important to acknowledge for some of our friends who are watching on this video that you might be a volunteer worship leader, and your lead pastor might be bivocational, and Monday might not be a true office Monday for you. And so this might be a Wednesday night conversation in your church, or whatever that looks like. And so I just want to acknowledge that. Take Monday as Monday looks like for you in these purposes. But yeah, I just want to open up this question to us, and let's talk about the relationship of the worship pastor and the lead pastor. Why is it important for planning? And let's go from there.
Well, I think it's arguably one of the most crucial relationships in the church when you consider that the worship pastor and the lead pastor are really two of the most visible people that are in front of the congregation the most times. And for that relationship to be solid is really crucial when you think about wanting your people to walk away from the service having a unified vision for how they should go out into the world and how they should apply what they've just heard, whether through song or the word. And I think it's so crucial that there's a lot of trust there between the two of you, because that trust goes a long way when you're preparing each and every week. You both might be in the same meeting together, but more often than not, you're apart working individually with a common vision for what the service should look like. And I think if there's anything that is in between that relationship, that you need to smash it.
That's right.
It's important that you run to the fear in that regard and really go after that, because people are always watching and really looking at how everything's flowing. And when it's not together, it's very evident, and it can become a distraction. And so that's one of the things that we obviously want to get rid of when we're inside of the service, because we don't want anything being taken away from the one who deserves all of our attention, the Lord. And so as we think about that, I just think how important it is to be on the same page in the mission of the church, the vision of how you want the service to be. I just think it's so crucial.
That's good. And the unity really is starts top down. And so if that relationship is not unified, as you said, it will be felt. And it will be felt not just for the rest of staff or whoever is working together, but the teams that you're over, or the volunteers. If there's a disconnect there, they will feel that, and it just flows down.
Right.
And so that's important.
And I would say too that as worship pastors and lead pastors, really take inventory of your relationship. Are you praying together each and every week? Are you really bathing everything that you're doing, that you're planning and preparing in prayer? Because that's so significant as you're looking to move forward and lead people and bring people along with you in that journey.
Yeah, when I hear you guys talk about these things, it makes me think that unity is bolstered by clear expectations. So I'm wondering who, as you think about your relationships with the people that you serve, right? And what I mean by that is your lead pastor, right? We serve and we want to lift their arms for sure. What are some of the best expectations that you have that are most clearly defined in that relationship as you kind of ebb and flow through the week? And I think it's good to revisit those sometimes too when they become unclear, but I don't know if anybody just has, hey, you know what, a couple come to mind that might be helpful.
I would say one clear expectation is the unified decision. When we make a decision, we're unified on it. So it isn't when we leave the room, I would have done X, Y, Z, or nope, we are all in this together. Whether the wheels fall off or not, we are all in this together because, again, that is a part of that unity. If I'm, backtracking, then it makes room or it opens the door for disunity to come in. So I think that becomes super important. When we leave that room, we leave it together. This is the way we're gonna walk in, boom, into discussion. So I think that's one clear expectation.
I think that's awesome.
That would be good.
And I don't even know that they even need to, that's like way at the top. Like even when I think about it, I'm like, one of my expectations is that we just meet every week. And like we meet at the same time and we honor that. And if somebody's got to cancel it, then you reschedule that, right? So I'm even talking like especially when you're like people who are like bivocational and you got all these things you're trying to juggle, you're like, okay, well, can we just have a time that we can count on as a baseline expectation? Because from there, then all of the other dominoes can stack up, right? So I think as you think about expectations, like it could be way up here, like unity, and then it could be all the way here, like can we just sit down and talk, right? But I think it'd be great to just hear other thoughts that you have around just those things that are most clearly defined in that relationship for you guys.
As we plan our services each week, we start with the pericope. So whatever the scripture passage is for that week, which passage will be read to set up the sermon, where all the content from the sermon will come from, we start there. So we have an expectation. Tuesday morning by staff meeting, we've got that passage picked out, solidified, so that all the other dominoes can stack up like that. So that's just one of our expectations.
Yeah, kind of what you said, Sean. I think setting a time and honoring it and meeting each time not only sets you up to be prepared for what's the week ahead that you're stepping into, but it starts to build that relationship. Naturally, you're going to have a conversation with the lead pastor or whoever you're meeting with, and that's the time to foster that relationship too. It's, we might talk about Sunday and the week ahead for 15 minutes and then like, how's your family doing? I just feel like honoring that time is really important. And like you said, and if it needs to be moved, that's okay, but still making a point to meet together so that you can be on the same page is so important, and that at least an expectation for me. Yeah,
I think a healthy expectation is that it's more than just the nuts and bolts or collaborating on service or whatever, but it's a personal relationship where you're checking in and you're understanding like, well, hey, what's going on in each other's lives and what's happening. And it's really a mutually caring relationship, because as Nick was talking about, I mean, you and your lead pastor are just so connected and intertwined. And so there's so much a part of that, but having that unity and being in tune with each other and being on the same page. But that personal connection then leads to, hey, you know what, when things get tough and there could be, maybe something goes off the rails, it's like, hey, listen, I know their heart and I believe the best about their intentions and what was happening. And it makes it a whole lot easier to navigate things that may get tense or conflict or disagreements when you have that. And so I think, like I was thinking about, just clear and consistent communication. So yeah, you're getting together, you're talking about stuff, but it's also, hey, you know what? If we have a good relationship, then you can be honest with me and I can be honest with you. And it's a whole lot easier to share that and receive that feedback.
Yeah. Feedback. that's probably another expectation too. And I think like that's like, hey, how do I take what's on my heart and tell it to you without hurting your feelings, or vice versa? And I think you live in that relational tension with just about every human relationship that you have. This one can sometimes be more sensitive because you actually work for someone, and you know, it's spiritual and it's relational and it's professional all at the same time. But I think I would just be curious, like, what type of feedback is you think most helpful to hear in that type of relationship? And like, what are the things where you're like, man, if I didn't hear from my lead pastor about this in our weekly meeting, then maybe there's something that I need to follow back up on?
I think when it comes to, this is something I learned in child development, but for every negative, give 3 positives. So that's just, I think that it's helpful into adulthood. So when you got to sit down and have a conversation, what are 3 positives you can point out? If we're coming from a strengths-based perspective, it's much easier to have a conversation. And it doesn't mean you skip the hard conversations, but if it's all wrong, then there's a good chance that there's something that's come into the relationship that needs to be looked at and dealt with. Because 9 times out of 10, either side, whether it's the worship leader looking at their senior pastor, the senior pastor looking at their worship leader, if all you can see is the wrong, then there's some other breaches in the relationship that's happened. And so I would be curious to know, what are the strengths that your senior pastor brings to the table that you celebrate every week, or your worship leader? What are the strengths? And then, okay, let's talk about this area that may be challenging for us. And I think when we come from that approach, one, it's person-centered, it is affirming, and it seeks to find a resolution that edifies the church versus tears each other down, right? Or you need to act a certain way. And so I think that becomes, when it comes to feedback, I don't ever think we should overlook it, because when you overlook it, it just festers and it becomes something else. Then they will never be able to do anything right, ever. And so, you know, being able to address that. I remember years ago, I heard a leader, he said, "Oh, I love conflict." And we were like, "Dude, are you on crack? Can we say that on a Nazarene video?" But at any rate, it was like, who likes, you know, conflict? And he was like, "But here's the thing. If you can push through the conflict, you will get to a deeper space in that relationship, because you develop trust that you could come to each other with whatever this was and work it through." And I have found that is absolutely the truth. If you can approach the conflict, walk through the conflict together, there's a level of trust on the other side of that can be absolutely transformative in the relationship. So I wouldn't avoid conflict. Let's have those conversations and then go from there. How can we build on so we can do something different, so we can improve? And so feedback, I just think it is so important and necessary, because if you don't have it, it only will turn into something that you don't want it to.
For sure. That's really good, Sharon. I think too, it's good to, this may seem really simple, but share a meal together. I mean, get in each other's home and share a meal together, because that is when guards are down, walls come down. And again, it's about fostering that relationship, because if that relationship is strong, then the conflict will hopefully be approached a little bit more at ease, because I trust this person, I know this person, I've sat at their kitchen table, like I love this person. And so I think that's important. Practically speaking, when we think about Mondays, I want to think about what does a good weekly debrief look like, maybe in your own context, thinking of the Sunday that you just finished, or looking ahead to the week. Talk to me a little bit about what does a good weekly debrief look like, practically speaking, with your lead pastor.
Every Monday, I would love to walk through the previous Sunday service item by item and critique, compliment, both sides of that, every element. There's just never time for that. So one way that we've decided to kind of pose the question in a way that can be helpful for both of us is, how easy was it to sing yesterday? So then depending on the answer, then you can start to chip away at, okay, why was that hard? Was it the key? Was the mix in the room rough? And it also helps too, because if you're a worship leader listening, you are very musical. Your lead pastor may not be, or may be more musical than they think, but don't have the same language. So instead of trying to decipher each piece of the service and try and critique it all, we just ask some of those bigger questions and then chip away from there. Because then that can lead into a conversation of, okay, so the mix was off this week. This week, I'm gonna have a conversation next Sunday, let me know how it sits in the room. Because also, when you're leading worship from the platform, you've got a really unique perspective as you look out at the congregation. You get to observe a lot that the lead pastor cannot see from where they're sitting or standing, and vice versa. They get to be more aware of, oh my gosh, on that song, people around me were singing. And you get to celebrate that. You get to talk about why that might have been. So some of those broader questions have become helpful for us in deciphering and being able to chip away and see, what do we really need to work on and adjust this next week?
That's good.
Yeah, when we talk about the flow of the service, that's really kind of where our thoughts go. And I love posing the question, how easy was it to sing? And we talk a lot about the importance of transitions in our services, because those can often go overlooked, and I think it again just helps keep people focused in the service if you can have those good transitions. So we talk a lot about that, and we also talk about what was the moment of the service. What was, if you want to talk about it in language of like, what was the highest moment, like the mountain peak moment of the service. And that can be many different things. It can be a song, and I think oftentimes we attribute that to a song or an altar call moment inside of that. And so that helps us kind of determine where we want to go next in planning, and it helps us know, well, okay, that worked for this, and this might work for where we're headed as well. And so I think kind of keeping those at the forefront of where we're looking at in the service is essential.
One of the big questions that we contemplate on is what are our long-term goals and vision for our gatherings, and work backwards. So how is this week helping us move towards where we want to lead and guide people overall? And then ask those questions: where do we see God show up this week? Where do we see God move? And what kind of stories are we hearing from people that came from that gathering? And then, hey, where do we feel like we got in the way? Where were the distractions? Where were the things that maybe didn't go as we planned? I love that question. Like, were people singing? Like, could we hear people? What was the actual visible responses, tangible responses that we were encountering in the space? Because that tells us a lot. We may think, oh, we planned a certain way, but was it resonating with people who were there? And then just kind of really get into the nitty gritty. But where do we see God show up? I think that's been a really important question for us, because it's really easy to get, to your point, Sharon, it's really easy to think about all the things that didn't go right, all the negatives, especially in the world of technology, like, oh, this didn't work right, this went down, whatever. But where do we see God show up? That's been helpful.
Michelle, I would love to revisit the realities that come with being bivocational and in those settings. And so I have served in a mix of settings. So I've served in a church of over 1,000 where we thought about all the transitions and we planned series 6 months in advance. I've served in middle-sized churches where we had a whole team who would wrap around, and I currently serve in a setting that is a lot less pared back, right? And so I happen to be married to the other pastor. And you think that would give me an in on what we're doing on Sunday morning? Not really. But here's the thing I would say. Because of having served in all now these contexts, he and I are both bivocational. So a sit down meeting about a sermon series, or sometimes we just can't think in that realm. We also are very much intentional about connecting in the spaces around our church. So there are people that come to our church that are not going to necessarily understand preaching on a series on the Wesleyan quadrilateral.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
We're going to have to figure out. Sometimes it is in the moment. In Michigan, we had a church shooting last week. And so it shifted our service because it was unfolding just, down the way. And so our services can look very different. So here's what I would say for those bivocational settings, where the music leader might be the volunteer or the pastor. I would say set a determination for what you want to the congregation to sing and go with that. It is okay if you sing, if you have a list of 10 songs that will be for the next 6 months. Because here's the thing, if we want people to sing our theology, they have to be able to learn it. And they're not gonna learn it if we switch out a new song every other week. Plus, you will drive yourself crazy trying to work a 40-hour job, plus get all the music this or that to the team. It is okay if you have a list of 10 songs that you are gonna sing in your congregation, and you put those on repeat, and you send it out over the Facebook Messenger group so everybody can know it, because when you come together that Sunday, you are gonna sing it all together like it's their solo hour, right? It's okay to do that. There can be this tension of trying to keep up with the Joneses as worship pastors. Like they're down the street, they do a new song or a different song every Sunday, or darn it, they're writing their own songs. Well, look, you got me and I'm not writing a song. I'm getting Nick's music. So it is what it is. And we gonna sing that song at least every other Sunday, right? But I think it becomes, if we're going to sing our theology, people have to be able to learn it. And when you are in, and this doesn't even necessarily have to be bivocational ministry, people are not going to remember a song that you sang one time and then you sung 6 months later. They're just not going to remember it. If it's important, then you might want to put it in the playlist. So it becomes, and remember, I had this conversation with somebody, but we hear the song over and over and over and over again, and it get on our nerves because we have heard it over and over and over again. Our congregation has not. They heard it the one Sunday you sung it, and then they heard it the Sunday after that. If you got youth in your congregation, trust me when I say it is going to be on the playlist with Benson and Boone, and it's going to be on the playlist of Macklemore if you lucky. So that means our kids are not hearing these songs every Sunday because their playlist is different, right? So it's okay to repeat it. And so I would say, especially in bivocational settings, decide what you want to be for your church and go with that, because you may not be able to meet with the pastor. Again, I live with the dude and we ain't had a meeting in a while, not about church. So, and that's just, we got so much time, right? So I just think bivocational folks, give yourselves a break. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses of the churches around you, because that's not your church. It's not your church. And so what is needed, what is the sound that's needed in your space at this time? And it's okay if you sing it over and over again. They'll eventually tell you when to stop. But we got a song, we've been singing praise like crazy. And them little kids been running around the church with their makeshift tambourines, and they love it. And we do it like at least twice a month, but they know this, they know how to sing it. Had we only done it once, they wouldn't have known how to sing it. But that's something that's become important to us, teaching our people how to praise with reckless abandon, teaching our people how to understand what it is we believe. And so we sing songs that are scripture in nature, and they don't necessarily have to match the sermon that's being preached that Sunday verbatim, and that's okay. And sometimes we'll show a video.
Yeah, Sharon,
Right?
one of the best things about that, maybe one of like the unintended benefit of that, is that you have to mine for like the theological gold, and you have to mine for the best invitations, like praise. Like, I mean, that's inviting others, right, to the shared journey of grace. That's discipling people. That's saying, hey, let's make it easy, right? Like, these are the best ones that we have, unapologetically. So I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
That is a great word and so practical. And I would even contend that that worship pastors in larger settings need to hear that word too.
Yeah, amen.
Because if the goal is for our people to sing, if our people are not singing, then honestly, I don't know that we're doing our job very well or what we've been called to do. And so if the goal was God honored by what we did? Were our people singing? Then that needs to be a question that we're asking ourselves continuously. I just came off maternity leave, and so I had a great perspective to be in the congregation for a few weeks, and it was so good for me. That's another thing I think we should find a way to get into the congregation at some point and just hear and be in that setting. But are our people singing? And if we are getting in the way of that because we have this urge to stay on top of, growing up, I grew up in a church with hymnals, and they weren't updating the hymnal
At all.
every week.
At all.
So we were singing the same things, and that was okay. It didn't feel like a burden. And so I think that is a good word for all of us, Sharon, that we can let go of some of that pressure if we are faithful to what God is speaking to our people and what the Holy Spirit wants to speak to our people on any given Sunday, and if that means reaching back into the archives and singing Shout to the Lord on Sunday, then we're going to shout to the Lord. That's what we're going to sing. And the pressure's off.
Absolutely.
The pressure's off.
And how do we remember Shout to the Lord? Because we sung it till we couldn't sing it no more.
That's right.
But I mean, just when people leave the doors, right, they are going to pull from what they know.
Yes.
And the reality is, if they've had your experience, they're going to pull from, if we've sung a bunch of songs every Sunday they can't remember, they will go back to Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I prove him o'er and o'er.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's what they'll go back to. They'll go back
Yes.
to what they remember. So what do you want the people to remember?
Yes.
And if we never spend time just sitting with a song that maybe the guitarist can't stand we sing because they got to do that one lick over and over and over again, which I get, just change it up one Sunday, but maybe not, because that's how the people remember to come in, because of that one little lick that the guitarists do,
Yes.
and that's a reality.
Yes.
And it's okay. It is absolutely okay.
I think that's great. And I think this is all great things that we've talked about here. And I think it's never too late to take on some of these things, and especially that worship pastor, lead pastor relationship. If any lead pastors are watching this, it's never too late to foster that relationship. It's never too late to start asking some of these questions on Monday. And it's just, a great word. Thank you all for sharing.